Real Exam English, Season 3, Sense of Humour. Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Real Exam English. This is Trevor speaking here. This season we have 10 great new topics for you. We have animals, fashion, money and much more. And as usual with a bunch of brilliant native English speakers from all around the world. Something new you will hear this season is people speculating on what they can see in photographs. This kind of language is needed in many English exams, so make sure to keep an ear out for that in later episodes. Something else new is that we have set up a page for anyone who would like to make a donation. You can find details of that in the show notes and also on the Real Exam English website, realexamenglish.com. Remember that you can download the transcripts for every episode on the website too, which is a great tool to use to help improve your comprehension as well as your vocabulary. Okay then, so today's topic is sense of humour. Everybody likes to have a laugh, right? But as you're about to hear, what is funny in one country isn't necessarily funny in another. You're going to hear loads of vocabulary about humour in general, as well as a bunch of idioms, phrasal verbs, and really cool expressions. In terms of accents, we have US, English, Irish, Australian, and New Zealand. So superb listening practice for your advanced English exam. Right then, let's go with the questions. Describe in general terms the sense of humour in your country.
I believe the sense of humour in the UK is sarcastic for the most part, dry as well. Like, you don't see a lot of jokes being telegraphed. Like, you can hear the sentence. It doesn't necessarily sound like it's a joke, but you know it's a joke because culturally you get it. Also, there's a lot of really out there humour, like the Monty Python kind of stuff is quite slapstick and ridiculous, yet still done with a weirdly straight face.
Is it possible for different countries to find each other's sense of humour funny?
To an extent, yes. Depending on how different the culture is. Like obviously, the UK and America have quite a lot of cross-pollination of humour because culturally there are a lot of similarities. So yeah, it depends on the amount of difference between the culture of the country as to whether the sense of humour translates.
Okay, so here are our first few types of humour: sarcastic, dry, and slapstick. So sarcasm is an ironic or satirical remark tempered by humour. Mainly people use it to say the opposite of what's true, to make someone look or feel silly. So, for instance, if your friend has bought some shoes which are really ugly, you can say, "Nice shoes," and they can tell from your intonation that you're joking with them. This is very typical in the UK or in Ireland, where I'm from. What's funny with this kind of humour is that Americans don't really use it as much and very often don't understand that you're joking with them. So if you say "nice shoes" to an American, they're likely to reply with something like "thanks man," which in itself is kind of funny, right? Next was dry humour, which is where someone says funny things with a serious, calm expression. Again, super common in the UK. Like the speaker said, you tell the joke with a straight face, which means without any expression. Slapstick then is a more physical type of humour. Where someone might fall into a hole or get hit in the head in a comical way. This is a more universal type of humour really, I guess, as there are usually no words involved. We heard about jokes being telegraphed. So if something is telegraphed, you can see it coming from a long way away. It's very predictable. Like the endings of many romantic movies are completely telegraphed. This, by the way, would make a brilliant sentence if you were writing a review of a movie or TV series or book maybe. Are there stereotypes in jokes in your country?
Not anymore. In fact, there are not any jokes anymore. Everybody's afraid to be funny. Nobody wants to offend anybody. And if you do offend anybody, you're canceled and banished, unfortunately. So no, there is no more humor in this country. In fact, if you look back at movies that have been released like over the past, I don't know, year or so, you don't find a single good comedy.
Okay, so this speaker, who is from the United States, by the way, mentioned that if you offend anyone there, you are cancelled. This use of the word cancelled has emerged over the last few years, and it means to stop supporting someone, usually a celebrity, because of something bad that they have done. So imagine your favourite music star does or says something offensive, then you might cancel them, meaning you don't listen to their music again or go to any of their concerts. A related expression is cancel culture, which relates to this whole recent phenomenon of cancelling people. Describe someone who tries to be funny but you think is totally unfunny.
I think I have a few of these to more serious and less serious degrees, and I think we've all met somebody like this, and this is the type of person that feels the need to think that they are, or at least desire to be, the center of attention, to be the performer in a work setting or a classroom setting or whatever it might be, and literally everything has to be turned into some sort of attention-seeking joke because that's the way that they sort of live their life. And it really moves focus away from whatever you're trying to do or anything like that. I love sense of humor. I have some amazingly funny friends. I love to laugh. However, there really is a time and a place, and there's a time and a place to be serious too. And I like to bring humor into as many things as possible, either myself or my friends. But this type of person only have one energy, and that energy is to make jokes about everything. To me, that just is not funny.
What kind of sense of humour do you share with your family and friends?
I think a lot of family and friends who are close with each other share the same type of sense of humor that I have with my family and friends. And maybe it's quite a British or Australian thing. I'm unfamiliar with maybe other countries or English-speaking countries, but me and my family and friends are very harsh to each other. Very dark jokes, very rude and awful to each other, honestly. But insulting your friends, saying some nasty things completely in a joking way is honestly a great way of showing affection. And if my friends were too nice to me and didn't say mean or rude things to me every now and again, I'd feel really uncomfortable.
I can totally relate to this speaker. It's quite similar in Ireland. If your friends aren't taking the piss out of you or making jokes at your expense, then something isn't right. The best of friends tend to be very tough on each other in a joking way. And this speaker has some super negative adjectives to describe the way he jokes with his mates. He had harsh, dark, rude, awful, insulting, nasty, and mean. If this were an English exam, that would be showing a great range of vocabulary to the examiner, 7 different ways to say more or less the same thing. Top marks. This is just a reminder that if you are looking for English classes, either individually or in a group, then check out realexamenglish.com for details. In addition to regular classes, all of my students can attend free conversation classes, and I sometimes have extra places available for non-students too, so keep an eye on Facebook and Instagram for notification of those. Describe in general terms the sense of humour in your country.
Can I tell you what it's not? Maybe that's a little bit easier. Some things that it's not. It's U.S. Americans stay way clear of anything that is remotely politically incorrect. And many times humor is about lining up two comparisons that are very similar and then disaligning them at the last minute. And U.S. Americans really, it's very bad form. People don't like to in the States, they don't like to laugh at that kind of thing, or black humor. It isn't very black humor. I'd say people sort of go more towards slapstick, wordplay, puns, spoonerisms, or reactionary humor of themselves, putting themselves in a situation of feeling ridiculous. So instead of personifying and projecting the ridiculous, it's about me. And there I was, and I was, in the middle of the Medina, and so you become the buffoon.
Wowzers, another whole load of types of humor here. We heard black humor, which is making jokes about things that are normally taboo or maybe even morbid. We heard slapstick once again. Then we heard about wordplay, which is using the different meanings of words to be funny. She gave examples like puns, where a word has two meanings and you use that for your joke. For example, I bought a boat because it was for sale. Boom, boom. If you don't get the joke, look at the transcript. And spoonerisms, where you mix up corresponding letters from two words. Like, instead of saying popcorn, you say cop porn. One of my speaking examiner colleagues recently shared a very funny spoonerism, which someone said in a speaking exam. The student meant to say the people in the photo are breakfasting, but instead said they are breastfucking, which is a totally different thing. What a disaster. Is it possible for different countries to find each other's sense of humor funny?
Not always. Yeah, I find not always. There's only certain people that find my sense of humor funny, because I'm a Kiwi and we have a very different sense of humor than a lot of people. So, yeah, not always, no, especially in, some of the Asian countries where I've lived and I've made a joke and they haven't understood me at all.
It's quite dry, isn't it?
Not like England, no. We're not sarcastic like that. We're a lot quicker. We have a different kind of wit than the English, yeah.
Describe a program or film you find particularly funny.
When I was living in New Zealand, I used to watch a British TV series called Keeping Up Appearances. And it was about a lady called Hyacinth Bouquet, or it was spelt bucket. And she was always trying to keep up with everyone. And I found her really funny because every attempt that she made went wrong. So, yeah, so I like that. It's trying to be something that you're not and, making fun of it.
So this speaker called herself a Kiwi, which is what people from New Zealand are known as. So she again mentioned sarcastic humour and also a different kind of wit than English people. Wit is basically intelligent humour, being funny in a clever way. Describe a programme or film you find particularly funny?
At the moment, I'm finding every single episode of Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister very, very funny, also very apt and just completely on the nose. I suppose it's one of those comedies. It's a comedy, but it's also quite satirical. But in its being satirical, it's actually really expressing quite a lot of what happens in that setting of working in government. So, I think if you work in government and you're watching programs about government, you can be quite sort of critical of it. But this is hilarious because it's absolutely spot on.
What subjects do you think should never be joked about?
Ooh, that's quite tough. I mean, personally, I don't think anybody should ever joke about someone's race. I don't think they should joke about things. Well, I mean, it's not so much a topic. I think for me, it's don't joke about things that are putting somebody down in a kind of mean way. If the person's got a good sense of humor, then they're not going to take offense, and it's fine.
We had this awesome idiom at the start here. The TV show is completely on the nose, which means it's exactly right. For example, his impersonation of the actor was on the nose. We also heard spot on, which basically means the same thing, exactly right. For instance, I'd say from your accent that you're from Liverpool, right? Spot on. We heard about having a good sense of humour, which means that if someone makes a joke at your expense or puts you down, then you don't get offended easily and can maybe even joke back with them. You don't take offence, as the speaker said. Okay then, so that's more or less it for today, folks. Who would have thought that the topic of humour would give so much brilliant vocabulary? I think it's fascinating how each of the different nationalities today each had their own acceptable ways of being funny. And I'm sure in your country it's completely different too. As an exam topic, this really only comes up at a C2 or maybe a C1 level. But at any level, you can be asked about what kind of TV or movie you like, or you might have to write a review about a series, for example. And in that situation, it's useful to be able to pull out this great vocab to impress the examiners. Okay, folks, hope you enjoyed that. It was a bit of a cultural education as well as a linguistic one today. Take care and see you next time. Trevor.